Helped me is that needing help is not a bad thing. It's something that God designed us to need help, even when everything was perfect. We were designed not to do things by ourselves. And when that angel came to Daniel, it said that he came, but it said the prince of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. So this angel needed help. We don't know exactly what he was doing, but apparently it held him up for 21 days, and somehow Michael coming to help him made it, allowed him to break through. And even Jesus, when he was on the earth praying before he went to the cross, it says there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. Even Jesus needed someone to come alongside and strengthen him and help him. And if Jesus needed that, we should not be ashamed. We shouldn't be too proud to acknowledge that we can't do it by ourselves. And we really aren't smart enough to figure things out apart from God. We may have lots of ideas, but there is no way that we can get everything right apart from God. Job's friends asked him, "Canst thou by searching find out God? Canst thou find out the Almighty unto perfection? It is as high as heaven. What canst thou do? Deeper than hell. What canst thou know?" Some of the things that Job's friends said were not quite on target, but this was true, that there's, if we were trying to figure out God, to figure out how we were supposed to live on our own, we would never make it. And I know that because we have all tried that before, and we all know from experience that doesn't work. Or if you don't know that from experience, then you need to look back at your experience and find out that that's true. Jesus said that he prayed, said, "I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but the Father, neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him." And so Jesus thanked God and was happy that God set it up so that even the wise and the prudent, the smartest and best among us, among men, can't figure it out. And the sooner we acknowledge that, the better it's going to go for us. We can't figure out God on our own. And in order to know God, Jesus said that you won't know the Father except through the Son, and whoever Jesus reveals the Father to. So we can't do it on our own. We need God's help to understand who he is. We also need help because God asks us to do more than we can. He gives us tasks bigger than what we can handle. Some people think that God won't give you anything you can't handle. Well, I don't think that's true. I think he does give you things that you can't handle all the time. I thought of Gideon when God appeared to him and said, "Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee?" And he said unto him, "O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." And the Lord said unto him, "Surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man." So Gideon recognized that he couldn't save Israel. He was just one guy on a one of the smaller families. But that didn't stop God from telling him to do it. And that doesn't stop God from telling us to do things. The fact that you can't do something, that doesn't really play into it at all. God will still have you do it. And when he tells us to follow him, when he tells us to resist sin, when he tells us to help our brother, forgive, all these things are things that we can't do by ourselves. And that's why we need God's help. And of course, God made it very clear to Gideon that it was God helping him and not his own strength doing it. So what do we need help with? When we talk about needing help, it's not primarily talking about building a barn or doing your taxes or taking care of the dogs while we're on vacation. That is help, but that's not really primarily what we're talking about here. There are things that are bigger and there are things that are harder than those things, and it seems like these are the things that we tend to try to do it on our own and don't realize that we need help or don't ask for help. Having a good attitude, that's something we need help with. Praying, not being fearful of the future, knowing what it really means to serve God. That is hard, that we need help with. Teaching our kids how to follow the Lord, respecting what our parents are teaching us, forgiving someone who hurt us, resisting temptation for secret sin, thinking about the best about our spouse, making decisions about our future, getting along with our coworkers. These are things that we face, and these are things that are hard, and I'm sure at least one of those things resonated with something that you are dealing with, something that's hard in your life, and you had to sit here right now and recognize that you need help with that. We all need help with it. We can't do it by ourselves. So we need to acknowledge that we need help. Why is that so hard? It seems like we always want to try to do it on our own, and sometimes it's because we have an idea. We always have another idea on how to, well, I could try this, and you try that, and that's not good enough, but you got another idea for something else you could try, and it's like it strings you along like that, and you got to take a step back and look and see, boy, I'm not smart enough to figure this out, and I really do need to have the Lord help me. I think our culture focuses on independence and being, not relying on other people. I think in our circles we do a better job of that than the general culture, but we also sometimes it's more in the building a barn side of things than it is with working on a relationship. But we got to get past that. I think part of it is pride. Is thinking, I don't need God. I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to try to figure this out. And rather than humbling yourself and saying, I need help. I can't do it. When the Jews were trying to be free from, I think it's the Babylonians, God told him in Isaiah 30:15, "For thus saith the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest ye shall be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And ye would not." In other words, you didn't want to. "But ye said, No, for we will flee upon horses. Therefore shall ye flee. And we will ride upon the swift. Therefore they that pursue you shall be swift." They wanted to go their own way. They wanted to, take the strongest that they could get. They wanted to get their horses, and that would save them. And God says, you know what? If you're going to ride on the swift, I'm going to make whoever chases you swift. And God is able to kind of break our pride in that way of showing us that no matter how hard you try, if you're doing it in your own power, God can make you fail at anything He wants you to fail at. And that's actually His mercy to us and showing us that we can't do it on our own. Sometimes we try to go at something alone because we're just convinced that it's the right thing to do, and we're not going to ask God about it because we know that this is what, it's just got to be like this, and I'm going to go make it happen. And that doesn't turn out well. After the Israelites sent the spies and they came back to the bad report and they decided not to go, then Moses told them about, God's going to judge you and you're not going to be able to go in. Well, then the Israelites, they changed their mind and said, well, actually, we are going to go. We are going to go fight. And Moses said, don't go up. He said, go not up, for the Lord is not among you, that ye be not smitten before your enemies. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and ye shall fall by the sword, because ye are turned away from the Lord. Therefore the Lord will not be with you. But they presumed to go up to the hilltop. Nevertheless, the ark of the covenant of the Lord and Moses departed not out of the camp. Then the Amalekites came down, and the Canaanites which dwelt in that hill, and smote them and discomfited them, even unto Hormah. So they were convinced that, okay, well, we're going to go do this. Now we're going to go take the land. And they didn't care that God wasn't going with them. And they found out really quickly that just because you think something's a good idea doesn't mean that it is. And I also thought of the time when they made the covenant with the Gibeonites without asking the Lord first. And then they found out, well, these were people these were our enemies. So sometimes it's hard to sit and pray and ask for God's help because you think it's just got to be like this, and I'm just going to go forward, kind of whether or not he goes along with it. That never works out. Sometimes it's hard to ask for help because sometimes the help is telling you to do something that you don't want to do. It's telling you that you are wrong and you got to go a different way. It says, and when he was gone forth in the way, there came one running and kneeled to him and asked him, Good master, what shall I do that I might inherit eternal life? And Jesus said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Thou knowest the commandments, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not kill, do not bear false witness, defraud not, honor thy father and mother. And he answered and said unto him, Master, all these have I observed from my youth. So here he's asking Jesus for help. He wants to know what he's missing. Then Jesus, beholding him, loved him and said unto him, One thing thou lackest, go thy way, sell whatsoever thou hast, and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross, and follow me. And he was sad at that saying, and went away grieved, for he had great possessions. Sometimes it happens where someone will ask for help, and really want to be free from something, or want to overcome something, or really know the Lord and serve the Lord. And the answer they get back is not the answer that they had in mind. And it's hard, and it means you got to give up everything. A lot of times that makes us a lot less eager to ask for help because it is hard. It's not like Jesus said, okay, well, okay, now you have eternal life. And a lot of our problems are not going to just magically be fixed. A lot of times when God helps us, it's helping us do something that's really, really hard. But as the first point said, we really don't have an alternative of asking God for help. We can't do it on our own. And King Jehoshaphat was going against his enemies who were much stronger than them, and he had the right attitude. He was fully submitted to what God said. It says, O our God, wilt thou not judge them? For we have no might against this great company that cometh against us. Neither know we what to do, but our eyes are upon thee. And we just have to have that attitude where we are looking to God and asking him for help, and we don't know what the best thing to do is, so we reach out and we yield ourselves to him. Okay, the third point is that it has to be from the right places. Sometimes when we realize we need help, we have an idea in our mind on where we're going to get that help. It's not right to get your help from the world, from the people of the world. It says, and Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet until his disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he sought not to the Lord, but to the physicians. I'm not saying that doctors are bad, but the moral of this is that, we got to go to God for things that we need. We don't go, if we need some help, we don't go to what the world goes to. The people who think like the world and ignore that God exists. The Israelites, I mentioned them earlier about how they wanted to get help from horses and chariots. God said, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Yet he also is wise, and will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, and against the help of them that work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men, and not God, and their horses flesh, and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is helping shall fall down, and they shall all fail together. So God said, when you seek to Egypt, or representing the way of the world, the people of the world, doing things in man's way, you can get all the help you want, but God will make you fail. Sometimes it's not limited to people in the world. Sometimes it's the way of the world. This is how the world handles a certain situation. Well, we're going to, I don't know, whatever it is, go to the courts and get this fixed, or, I'm going to stand up for my rights, or, the self-help books, just things that ignore God's power. And this King Ahaz did this. It says, in the time of his distress did he trespass yet more against the Lord. This is that King Ahaz, for he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus, which smote him. And he said, because the gods of the kings of Syria help them, therefore I will sacrifice to them, that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. So if you go and say, oh, well, this is what the world does, I'm going to go to them, and you think it's going to help you, it says they were the ruin of him and all Israel. And if you go to something other than God, it will be the ruin of you. We got to go to God first. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. God has offered that we can come to him at any time. It says, we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. So Jesus is our high priest, and he says that there's this throne of grace, that Jesus is just waiting there. He knows what our experiences are. He has been tempted, and when we come to him, he's ready to give us grace to help in our time of need. He's just waiting there. And we go to God first, but often God gives us help through other believers. It says, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. So if somebody falls into a sin, it says that those who are spiritual, or those who are mature, should restore them. If you need help, you want to go to someone that you trust as someone who is close to the Lord, and someone who has experience with following the Lord. That's the kind of people you want to go to. And then, we can bear each other's burdens and help, and it says you can restore someone. It says that God delivered them from so great a death, and doth deliver, in whom we trust that he will yet deliver us, ye also helping together by prayer for us. So prayer is one way that we can help each other. It says, confess your faults one to another, and pray for one another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So there's something about going to a brother or sister and asking for prayer, and it says that it availeth much. That means it does a lot of good. It's powerful. And we want to remember that, when we need help, we need somebody to pray for us. And that's what we should be here for each other, to pray for each other. I think this is also important to have this openness to be able to go to each other. Sometimes it's hard to go to somebody, but I think each of us, if somebody needed something, if somebody was struggling with something, I think each of us would want them to come to us and ask for us to help them and pray for them, or talk through it and be there for them. If you think that you would be willing to help somebody else, that means that the guy sitting next to you is willing to help you too. So we want to be open to going over to brother or sister and say, hey, I need help in this area. You know that we all want to help each other. Okay, and then the last point I have is that just because we're getting help doesn't mean that we just sit back and do nothing. I think there's two ditches you can fall into, two different errors. One is thinking that we don't need help, and we already talked about that. But the other one is thinking that we don't need to try. Like, well, I'm just going to ask somebody else to help me, and they didn't fix my problem, so it's not my fault. I'm just a victim of my circumstances. In order for the help to really be effective, you got to be trying yourself. We've all tried to help somebody who doesn't really want to learn. They don't really want to be helped. And if that's you, well, you're the problem. There's a reason that it's not being taken care of for you. Trying as hard as you can isn't good enough. You can't do it trying as hard as you can. You need help, but it's also still required. We also still have to try as hard as we can and get help. Paul said, but by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. So Paul recognized that it wasn't him, it was the grace of God which happened. But it still said that he labored more than they all. Like he put his whole heart and soul into doing what the Lord called him to do. there's this man or this boy who had this demon in him, and they brought him to Jesus. And Jesus asked his father, "How long ago is it since this came unto him?" And he said, "Of a child. And oftentimes it hath cast him into the fire and into the waters to destroy him. But if thou canst do anything, have compassion on us and help us." And Jesus said unto him, "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." And straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief." And then, of course, Jesus healed him. But this father recognized, he tried to believe as hard as he could, and he gave it his all, and he did believe. But he recognized that he had unbelief still left in him, and that's where he asked Jesus to help him, and Jesus did help his unbelief. So we see the father didn't just come to Jesus and say, "Well, here, take care of it." The father was, he made the effort to bring him, and he made the effort to believe and trust in the Lord. And then Jesus did the miracle. And one more passage here. It says, "Behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, Have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, Send her away, for she crieth after us. But he answered and said, I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, It is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. And she said, Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Then Jesus said unto her, O woman, great is thy faith, be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour. You see, she gets rejected over and over by Jesus. She's coming and she's asking for help from him, and Jesus turns her away. That seems cruel, but Jesus is demonstrating to us, I think, the sincerity of her heart and her determination to do whatever it takes to get to Jesus. It's not that she earned the healing for her daughter, but it's her seeking Jesus with all of her heart opened her up to receive God's power. I think that's the way that it still is with us today, that our seeking God with all of our heart and our putting forth all the effort that we can makes us a candidate for God, for Jesus to come in and work the miracle that we need. So that's all I have to share today. So I guess we want to have is there any responses to the message or anything that you disagree